Hi everyone, this is Attorney Lilian with Lily Legal, and today I am going to be talking to you about all things VAWA. I'll be answering your questions, and I want you to know if you have any questions to put them in the comments. Even if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and put your questions in the comments, okay? Like I said, I'm attorney Lillian Chukura from Lily Legal, and we do immigration law. We help our clients get status for themselves and for their families using the U.S. immigration law system. Okay, so if you have any questions about this or anything else, you can book a time with me over Zoom or in person by going to lilylegal.com or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. All my contact information, as always, is in the description box. Okay. And I want you to know if you find this video helpful and if you like it, go ahead and hit the like button, share it with your community. Let's get this information to as many people as we possibly can. Okay. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that because guess what? I post bonus videos on YouTube that do more hands-on, show you how to, for example, change your address with USCIS, and I will be doing the next one on how to read the visa bulletin. So you want to get subscribed so that you will not miss any of those bonus uploads. Okay, so today, like I said, we will be talking about all things VAWA. If you have been watching my channel for a while, you know that I love talking about this topic. It is an amazing immigration tool that people can use to gain status and get out of abusive relationships. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I love talking about it. And if you have questions about it, put them in the comments. I will be going through the questions that I have been getting on this topic. Like I always tell you, if you have questions, put them in the comments. Well, these people put their questions in the comments. So I will be responding to their questions and covering a lot of the things that you might even have questions on. So let's get into it. Okay, there's a lot of questions, so I want to make sure that not only do I cover their questions, but that if you have questions and you put them in the comments, that I have time to cover those as well. So we're just gonna jump right in. Okay, so the first question is, how long must one be married to the abuser before they can file for VAWA benefits? Okay, so remember, you can file for VAWA if you are married to a US citizen or a permanent resident and you suffered abuse on the hands of the US citizen or permanent resident spouse. Okay, so you have to prove that you two had a bona fide marital relationship and that you suffered abuse in the relationship. I will get into the what type of, you know, things count as abuse later because someone asked that. So we'll cover that. But this is asking, how long do you have to be married to this person before you can apply for VAWA? Well, technically, you just have to be married. That's the requirement, right? You have to be married to the person. The abuse has to occur during the marriage, right? So let's say you get married today and tomorrow your spouse, you know, beats you up and you end up in the hospital, for example. Can you apply the next day? Technically, yes, right? Because you suffered abuse in the relationship. You were living with your spouse in the US while this happened. Okay. Remember, that is a requirement. You have to have lived with your spouse in the US, and the abuse typically has to take place in the US. Okay. So keep those things in mind. But yes, there's no time frame. You don't have to be married to the person for 10 years before you can apply. You just have to be able to prove the elements of the of VAWA, right? Good faith marriage, So you need good faith marriage and you need abuse in the relationship. And you have to have lived together in the US. So those are the requirements. And if you meet those requirements, you can apply. And then the next question is, what if the marriage ended because of death? So if you were in an abusive relationship and the spouse ended up dying, you can still apply under VAWA. This is just a different category that you would apply under, but can you still get immigration benefits based on that marriage? Yes, you can. But again, you have to make sure that you are applying within a certain amount of time. You're not waiting, 2-3 years before you go through the process of applying. Once there's a divorce or there is death, there is a timeline that you have to meet. Okay. So if you're in this situation and there was divorce or death, you want to start the process as soon as possible. Okay. Now, just gonna cover the next one. Can I apply for VAWA if I am divorced? Answer: yes. Right. As you can see from the last question, yes, you can apply for VAWA even if you are divorced. However, right, I'm a lawyer, so there's always a catch. However, you have to do it within 2 years, okay? 2 years of the divorce. You have to apply within 2 years of the divorce. You can't apply 10 years later. If you're getting divorced, just know you have 2 years from the divorce to apply for VAWA. Okay. And then another question, I don't have it listed here, but someone did ask this. Can you get married while your VAWA petition is pending? The answer is no. Okay. No, no, no. If you get married before your VAWA petition is approved, you no longer qualify for VAWA. Okay. So that's something else to keep in mind. If you are planning on getting married or you file for VAWA and then end up getting married, just know your VAWA petition will be denied because now you no longer qualify because you have remarried. Okay. If you remarry to a U.S. citizen, your U.S. citizen spouse can file a marital petition for you. You just wouldn't qualify under VAWA, but there's other options available to you. Okay. And then this is one of my favorite questions because there's such a misconception because of the name VAWA, right? Is Violence Against Women's Act, right? So when you hear that, you think, oh, this only applies to women. However, we have to remember when these things were written, we weren't looking at the fact that gender, like the way they were written by, people in Congress, and they don't really look at the day-to-day things. And the title, yes, it's called Violence Against Women's Act, but if you actually look at the words, right, it does not specify men or women. It's about someone being in an abusive relationship. Okay, so if you're married to someone and you were the victim of the abuse, you qualify, whether you're a man or a woman. That's something that I really want people to understand and really take in when it comes to VAWA. It's the name can be deceiving, okay? The name can be deceiving, but just know, even if you're a man, you still qualify. Okay, so I'm just going to take a minute and just look at the comments that are coming in. Hi, Austin, all the way from North Carolina. Welcome. I am so happy you're here. Hi, Emmanuel. Welcome, welcome. And then we're going to say hi to Faith. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you. I'm so glad you're here. And then I'm going to actually go into Emmanuel's question, which is, what is a VAWA visa, right? I know I talk about this so much on my channel, but sometimes we need to go back to the basics. And I'm so glad you asked this question. So I'm going to go over what it actually is. So VAWA, like I said, is based on the Violence Against Women's Act. There's a provision in there that allows for spouses of U.S. citizen or permanent residents that have been abused in their relationship by the U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse to be able to apply for immigration status. Right. So you apply for this based on the fact that you were in a good faith marriage with the US citizen or permanent resident, you lived with the person in the US, the abuse occurred while you were married and living with the person in the US. And now you want to apply for VAWA so that you can get immigration benefits based on that abusive relationship. Now, the thing about that is once you qualify for VAWA, you also get the opportunity to apply for a green card. Okay, so there's a lot of benefits to applying for VAWA. You get to apply for a green card. If you're married to a US citizen, you immediately qualify for a green card. However, you still have to meet all the other requirements for a green card. For example, you need to be admissible. But if you are admissible, you don't have any other immigration issues, you can apply for a green card, a work authorization, a travel permit with your VAWA application. So there's a lot of benefits to taking the steps to actually applying for VAWA if you meet the requirements. Okay, so just know that is the basics of VAWA. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments and I will continue covering the other questions that I have gotten on this topic. And if you're just joining me, welcome. Feel free to tell me where you're joining me from. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I am more than happy to respond. If you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. I will be answering you and will probably be doing more follow-up videos talking about this topic. So feel free to put your questions in the comments. So the last question I answered was, can I apply for VAWA if I am a man? And the answer is yes. Okay. So yes, you can apply for VAWA if you are a man. Even though there's women in the title, it doesn't mean it's just for women. Okay. So let's get on to the next questions. Let's see. This one, little long, but I applied for VAWA. I mailed my application last December, but haven't heard anything. How can I track my application? Okay, so how do you track an immigration application? That's what this really boils down to. So if you have your receipt notice, you will see a number, right? It will say receipt number. And that number is what you can use to track your application. So you go to uscis.gov and you click on the case status. It's on the main page. You click on case status and you type in that receipt number. It usually starts with 3 letters and then a bunch of numbers. Okay, so you type in that receipt notice number and it will tell you where your case is. So when you type it in, the case status might just be, we have received your application, okay? Or we sent you a notice. And it's good to follow up and look at the case status because you want to know when USCIS sends you something. So for my clients, we have a tracking system. We always check to see where they are. If USCIS is sending us mail, we know when they sent it so that we can keep an eye out for it. If we don't get it in time, we can follow up with them right away, not months and months later. Okay, so it is really important. If you want to check your case status, go ahead, go to uscis.gov, go to case status, type in your receipt number. It will be on your receipt notice with all the other information about your case, but the receipt number is what you would need to check your case status. And like I said, it typically starts with 3 letters and a row of numbers. Okay? Good. So let's get to the next question. Actually, let me check the comments. There is a lot of comments. Okay. Hi, Peter from Liberia. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us. And Leona, thank you for joining. Erin, as always, welcome. Thank you for joining. And let's see. So Peter has a question. While applying for VAWA visa, do the individual have to put in to be granted such? Okay, so I'm guessing you're asking, what do you have to present, right, as evidence or anything of that sort for your visa to be approved? For the VAWA to be approved, what type of documentation do you have to present? I'm guessing that's your question. It's not really clear, but if that's your question, go ahead and just give me a thumbs up in the comments so I know that's what you're asking. I want to make sure I'm answering the right question. So, what do you have to present? So, like I said, with VAWA, you want to show that your marriage was entered into in good faith. That's really the first step, right? If you can show that your marriage was entered into in good faith, that you live together with your spouse. So how do you show this? The same way you would show a good faith marriage if your spouse was filing an immigration petition for you. Okay. If you had bills together, if you had a lease together, mortgage, things like that, pictures, basically anything that you can use to show that your marriage was real, that your marriage was entered into for love and not just to get immigration benefit. That's the first thing you will have to show, is that you entered into your marriage in good faith. Then you have to show that you suffered abuse in your marriage. That's the second step. Okay, so second step, you suffered abuse. So you show this by, if you have ever unfortunately been physically abused by your spouse, you can show hospital records. If you have a restraining order, if you had any police reports, those will be helpful. If there was physical abuse. For the other many types of abuse, I typically recommend a psych evaluation, just statements, proof of the abuse is what you really want to show. And you can show that in multiple ways, not just one. Okay. Physical abuse is not the only type of abuse that is out there. There's many other types of abuse. And you want to work with an immigration lawyer, a psychologist, together to really figure out what type of abuse you have suffered and how to present that evidence to USCIS. Okay, so those are the main things that you want to show. Then the final thing is that you have good moral character. So good faith marriage, abuse, and then you have good moral character. This means, typically what this means is that you have not been convicted of any serious crimes that make you not eligible. Okay, so typically you would want to present evidence that you have not been arrested or that you have not been convicted. So even if you were arrested, you were not convicted, right? So you really want to show U.S. immigration that you are a good person, you have been here, you have been a good citizen of the US since you have lived here. You have not been in any sort of trouble. Okay, so it is really, 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 really important that you show all three of those things in your application process. You want to show it the first time around. You don't want them to ask you for more documentation. It will slow down your case if they do that, but you want to present those documentations when you file so that they can start processing your case as soon as possible. Okay, so those are the things you will need if you are applying for a VAWA. So if you have filed for divorce, like I said earlier, if you are in the process of getting a divorce, you can still file for VAWA. Even if you are already divorced, you can still file for VAWA. You just have to do it within 2 years of the divorce. Okay, so you can't go past 2 years. You have to file within 2 years of the divorce. So I hope that answers your questions, Peter. And then Leona, what is VAWA? VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act. It applies to men and women. Actually, it applies to everyone that has been in an abusive relationship with a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse, right? So if you're married to a U.S. citizen or permanent resident and you have suffered abuse in that relationship and you can prove the abuse, prove the relationship, and show that you have good moral character, the U.S. government has said that you can apply and not only get approved for VAWA, but you can also apply for a green card once your VAWA is approved. And if you qualify for a green card, you can get a green card and then apply for citizenship once you qualify for citizenship. Okay, so it's a whole, the law is really set up for you to get your green card when you have been in this abusive relationship with a U.S. citizen or permanent resident spouse. Okay. Let me see. Oh, thank you so much, Leona. That's nice of you to say. And thank you, Benjamin. Honestly, this is why I do this. I am an immigrant myself. I came here from Nigeria. So sharing information and making sure that other immigrants are informed on their rights, the things that they can qualify, the things that can give them freedom in the US, that is really one of my passions. And that's why I do these lives every single Friday, that you can come on here and ask me questions. Okay, I am a licensed US immigration attorney, so ask me your questions. Okay. Like I tell people, when you want to meet with me personally to really look at your case, I do charge a consultation fee. Okay. But when you come on these lives, you can ask me, general questions. I can't, of course, tell you whether you qualify for VAWA because I don't know your particular situation or what's going on in your case. That's what a consultation is for. But in these situations, I can give you the information that can help you figure out what the next steps you can take in your journey is. Okay. And Benjamin, feel free to just call my office and schedule a consultation, and we can definitely discuss the issues that's going on and get you the help that you need. Okay. Thank you all for your kind words and your questions. I love when you interact with me. This is a chat for a reason. It's for me and you to talk and really make sure that you are following me and that you understand what I'm talking about and you know that you have options. Okay. That's really what I want you to get through, is that you have options. And I'm happy to discuss what those options are with you. Now, what are the steps that really happens when you apply for VAWA? So the process is really simple, right? I have a process checklist that I give my clients that when we go through each step, they can just check it off like, okay, we're going through this. So the first step is that you apply for VAWA. You apply for adjustment of status if you qualify for adjustment of status, and you apply for a work authorization. Okay, so for most of my clients, we do this all at the same time because I check, okay, you qualify for VAWA, check. You qualify for a green card, check. You qualify for work authorization, check. So then we do all the application at the same time so that you're not waiting for the VAWA to be approved before you can start the green card process. No, we want you to get everything processing at the same time so that you can get your green card faster, you can get your work authorization faster. Okay. Once we file those applications, the next thing that will happen is that you will get your receipt notice. So this basically says we've received your application for VAWA, your application for green card, and your application for a work permit. After that, you will get, again, these are in no particular order because USCIS at this moment is doing stuff not really in the order that they used to because some things are being processed faster. So you will receive a pre-approval. So it's called a prima facie determination. This is basically USCIS saying, hey, we looked over your documentation. We think you qualify. We think you meet the requirements. Here's this determination. You can use it to get government benefits. So, for example, if you are leaving a relationship where you have to move out of the household and you end up in a shelter, for example, you might not be able to get government assistance to get housing. However, once you get this pre-approval, you can then apply for government benefits using the letter that you get from USCIS. So it is very, 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 very important to make sure that your application, when you put it in, is the best it can be so that you get this letter, especially if you know you're going to need some government assistance moving forward. Okay, so after that, you'll get your fingerprint notice. So the notice will tell you where and when to go for your fingerprints to be taken by US government. This is so they can do a background check on you and just make sure that what you're telling them about your good moral character is actually true. After that, you will receive your work permit, your VAWA approval, and deferred action. So once your VAWA is approved, you will get deferred action. What does that actually mean, right? It's like deferred action. It just means that US government is saying, because your VAWA is approved, we're not going to bother you. Okay, we're not going to put you in immigration court proceedings, even though you're here without authorization. We're gonna leave you alone. That's really what deferred action is. That's what you get if you just apply for VAWA without applying for a green card. So you can live here, you can work, and not worry about going into immigration court unless, again, there's an issue as far as criminal activity or things like that. Once you have the deferred action, you get your interview for your green card. You go to the office, the officer is not going to be asking you about the abuse. Okay, they already approved your VAWA, which means they believe that you were abused in your relationship and you had good faith marriage. The officer is only looking at whether you qualify for a green card, looking at your immigration history, looking at if you have any criminal records that could make you inadmissible, if you presented any false information that could make you inadmissible. That's what they're really looking at this stage. They're not trying to see if they will take away your VAWA or not. You'll still have the deferred action. They're just looking at whether you would qualify for a green card. Okay, so after the interview, like I said, for my clients, we prepare all our clients for the interview, usually do amazing. They go to the interview, it's approved, you get your permanent residency. It is going to be a permanent residency. You're going to get a 10-year green card. You are good to go. You can apply then for citizenship within 3 years. 3 years. So typically, if you got your green card through anything other than marriage, you would have to wait 5 years to apply. But with VAWA, because it is technically based on marriage, right? It's based on your marriage to an abusive U.S. citizen or permanent resident. You can apply for citizenship after 3 years. You don't have to wait 5 years. So that is another great benefit of this. So that is the steps. So after 3 years, you can apply for citizenship. Once you get your citizenship, you are done with the immigration process. Okay, you can apply for your passport and you can travel. You can do all the things. Okay, so that is the process that most of our clients of mine go through. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to ask. And then Leona, yes, definitely feel free to reach out once you are ready. Okay. Now we're going to cover this topic. Okay. Is it true that I can get VAWA if I was abused by my US citizen step parent? And the answer is yes. So VAWA, I know I focus a lot on the spouse part of things, but a parent or a child that were abused can also apply for VAWA and get it. Okay, so if you are a child and you were abused by your US citizen or permanent resident parent or step parent, okay, remember for step parent, the relationship between your biological parent and your step parent needs to take place before you turn 18. And if it did and you were abused by that step parent, you can then apply for VAWA based on that relationship. If you are a parent and your child that's over 21, that's a US citizen, is abusive towards you, you can also apply for VAWA. So for parents, your child has to not only be 21 years old or older, but they also have to be US citizen, because only US citizens can file for parents, not permanent residents. So it's really key here that for parents, it's a US citizen child over 21. But yes, this is a question that I get all the time, and it is something that people don't really realize, that you can get this status through a parent or a child. So I wanted to cover that with you. And then, can I get VAWA if my spouse never hit me? And the answer to this is yes. Yes, yes, yes. Physical abuse is only one type of abuse. Okay. Let me repeat that. Physical abuse is only one of the many, many, many types of abuse. So it's really important that when you're looking at whether you were actually abused, that you're not just looking at whether your spouse actually physically harmed you. That's only one part of it. There's emotional abuse, there's sexual abuse, there's financial abuse, there's verbal abuse, and then there's psychological abuse. There's so many different ways that your spouse can abuse you that goes beyond just the physical. So I'll give you some examples of emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, verbal abuse, and psychological abuse, because I think sometimes people need to know what these things actually look like in everyday life, so that you can identify when that's happening. And then I will go into my little spiel about abuse. Okay. So for emotional abuse, examples are if your spouse makes you feel like you are crazy, or that they are, they're playing mental games with you, right? They always put you down. They always humiliate you. They destroy your possessions from your home country. They put down your possessions. They put down your values. They make you feel like you're not valued, right? They shame you. because you don't have immigration status. Those are forms of emotional abuse. And sometimes we don't realize that those things are forms of those are forms of abuse. Now, for sexual abuse, they call you sexual names. They use sex as a punishment, right? There's so much more, and I go through these things with my clients when we're doing a consultation, because I want to make sure that they're really thinking about all the different ways that they were harmed in the relationship. Financial abuse includes when they threaten to report you to the IRS, restrict you from, going to school or working. You have to ask them for money. So, for example, you work and all your paycheck goes to your spouse, and then your spouse gives you an allowance, right? They force you to quit your job. They control how much you're able to work. They deny you access to the income that you're earning as a family. So all those things are forms of financial abuse. And then for verbal abuse, I think we all see this, and sometimes we don't see it as abuse. So calling names, insults, making fun of the way you speak English, right? Humiliating you in public in front of your kids, making fun of you for being abused, right? Sending you negative, insulting, or threatening emails, text messages, social media messages, controlling. Another form of abuse is a controlling your interactions with other people, right? Psychological abuse examples: intimidating you with looks, gestures, or a weapon, smashing things when they're angry, using your immigration status against you in order to gain power and control over you, hiding your important documents. I've had situations where people were not able to get access to even their passport or their birth certificate in order to file because their spouse has taken it and hidden it away from them. So these are all forms of abuse. So what I'm trying to get at with all of this is that before you decide that you do not qualify for VAWA because you were not abused or you were never hit by your spouse, there might be other forms of abuse that you suffered that you are not even aware of. So I typically suggest that my clients, before we even start going through some of this process, speak with a psychologist so that they have the support emotionally when they're going through this. I've had people break down because it was just too much for them to relive the situation, because you have to really relive it in order to tell me about it, in order for you to write a statement to the US government about it. So it's really, really, really important that if you're going through this process, like I said, for my clients, always recommend having a support system, support group, a therapist that you see regularly to help you cope with the emotions that come from going through this process. Okay, so if you have any questions, if you're joining me, we're talking about VAWA. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I have answered all the questions I had so far on VAWA from you all out there in the, interwebs. I am always happy to answer your questions. If you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and put your questions in the comments. I know you have some. Don't be shy. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I can respond to you and answer your questions. Okay? So, I hope you got a lot out of that. If you have any questions about this or anything else immigration related, you can always book a time to talk to me over Zoom or in person by going to lilylegal.com or by calling my office at 508-443-1788. My information is in the description, along with my YouTube channel. So feel free to go there where you can get some bonus videos, okay, that really walk you through how to do certain things. For example, how to change your address with USCIS when you have some cases pending. Okay, that is right now up on my channel, so go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So that is it for today. Thank you for your time. And remember, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please do share it. And if you are listening in a place that you can subscribe and you don't want to miss anything, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And once again, I am Attorney Lilian Chukura. I am the attorney and owner of Lily Legal. And I really want to thank you for your time. We do immigration law here, and we help our clients get status for themselves and for their family. So thank you so much for joining me. As always, I will see you next week, Friday, when we can chat again. Bye for now.